What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Galaxy of Heroes video. I am your boy Scribble. I hope you guys are great. I hope you guys are fantastic. I hope you guys have seen the latest requirements for Galactic Legend Leia. It was announced yesterday with the arrival of some odd changes in our last speculation video. But today I want to discuss around the final requirements for GL Leia, what they're likely to be. Let's break this down.
So give it up.
My dead body.
Alrighty, so unless you've been living under a rock, you will be aware that Galactic Legend Leia will be coming #soon TM. We don't know quite when, although we can assume is that it's coming in the next couple of months or several weeks from now. Now, we've had the first two set of requirements. We can see over here, the first batch, we had Captain Rex, Princess Nisa, the two brand new marquee units that we've had. Captain Rex has just gone farmable on a low-level node, so if you aren't farming him already, perhaps consider going ahead and going for him now. He is pretty easy, only being in 3F Dark Side, so go ahead and grab that as soon as you possibly can. Princess Nisa has just hit shipment, so you will be able to buy her with crystals, although realistically, unless you're going to be wailing on Scout Trooper who just got announced, I wouldn't recommend necessarily going in and start farming her with shipment crystals. I think you're better off waiting a couple of weeks before she hits farmable. It shouldn't be too long now. Wicket at Relic 3, very easily understandable and achievable because he is an older character, and as such he doesn't require as many Chirotechs as did a lot of the new releases. And it's only Relic 3, so very generous relic requirements here for Galactic Legend Leia. I'm actually incredibly surprised. And then Akbar at Relic 3. Lando Calrissian being at Relic 5 is already a requirement for another GL. I believe it's JML. It might even be Jedi Knight Luke. I can't remember. Either way, if you've already farmed JML, you're going to have a number of these prerequisites already done. So the second set of requirements that got announced with the Scout Trooper marquee that's going live today is Scout Trooper at Relic 7. That brings the third marquee character for this particular Galactic Legend to the table. Yes, it's Relic 7, but honestly, I don't actually mind. We know he's going to be used in the new raid that's coming up, the new Endor raid. If you haven't watched my video earlier in the week talking about how we are going to be losing all the Crate Dragon raid rewards, well, not all of them, but the Mark III, the most important raid rewards are being moved to Endor. Farming GL Leia will give you a good leg up in the new raid, as she has a number of units that are going to benefit it. So, Scout Trooper being Relic 7, not a terrible investment. He also has a Raid Omicron, but I can't in good conscience advise people do that just yet. Now, R2 at Relic 8 is really not a terrible investment. I know he's not a super meta character right now, and hasn't been for quite some time, but he does have use. He does have a lot of flexibility. Can go in droid teams, can go in Resistance, can go in Rebels, can go in Galactic Republic. I was getting there eventually. I personally like to use him with JTR. So taking him to Relic 8, yes, it's a big ask, but he's already a Relic 7 requirement for JML, so we just have to take him one additional Relic level. Personally, I'm completely on board with this. It's not terrible. Then we've got Captain Han Solo. He was already a Relic 5 requirement, I believe, for Jedi Knight Luke, and Rolo was a Relic 3 requirement for Jedi Knight Luke, so we're having a lot of crossover here already. This is becoming easier and easier. And then Chief Chirper. Look at all these characters, guys. A lot of them do not require tons and tons of Chirotech. Yes, we've got Scout Trooper, Princess Nisa and Captain Rex that are all going to be heavy on it, but all the other ones are pretty old characters, and some of them have got crossover with previous GL farms. So we only have one set of requirements left available to us. It is 5 additional units that we are going to have to relic. I want to talk about who I think is going to be the most likely units that we are going to see. The first one that I'm going to suggest is going to be the ship. Every GL, I believe, so far has required a ship as part of their Galactic Legend farm. The one that makes the most sense to me right now is the Profundity. I think we're going to get either a 6-star, maybe a 7-star Profundity as a requirement for Leia. It makes sense. We're not going to have something like the Home 1 be a requirement. That's far too old. to be an incentive for CG. I don't think that we're going to have a new ship that is a Rebel ship. I don't think they'll use Han's Millennium Falcon or the Rebel Y-Wing or anything like that, or even the Outrider. These have all been requirements before. So I think it makes the most sense to me, if they want to try and drive this and push additional investment into people's rosters, that they ask for people to have a 5 or a 6-star profundity, maybe 7-star at an absolute push. Yes, that is a big additional farm on top of everything that's required, but honestly, apart from the fact that we've got three new marquees, the rest of the requirements are both relatively low in relic requirements, have a lot of crossover, or are old units so don't need a lot of Chirotech. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the profundity as an additional requirement. Coming up next, I think it would be incredibly odd if it doesn't have some form of additional Leia requirements, as in actual Leia. Princess Leia, I would not be surprised if we require her at Relic 7, even potentially Relic 8. She is a previous version of the GL that we are currently getting. Usually these do feature, and yes, we have had Rolo up here, but it's not out of the realms of possibility for them to request a high relic investment in Princess Leia as well, because she's old character, she's not used anywhere really particularly frequently, and not many people will have her at a high relic count. So count on it. Speaking of older characters that people do not have a lot of relic investment in, typically speaking, I would not be surprised if we see a relatively high relic request into Farm Boy Luke. Farm Boy Luke, I don't need to tell you guys why he has a lot of relevance to Princess Leia or Galactic Legend Leia. You know, apart from the fact that they're siblings, hashtag spoilers, sorry about that. He's also an old character, he's terrible, and nobody really uses him. And that typically is the MO for Galactic Legend requirements. Either they're going to be brand new characters that require a lot of investment, are difficult to get, or require whaling to get marquees up to pace very quickly, or it's going to be old, underutilized characters that CG wants to push additional investment in across the board. So Farm Boy Luke, I think, is a relatively high chance of actually being a requirement. Could be Relic 5, could be Relic 3, could even be Relic 8. We don't quite know. So, there are going to be an additional 2 characters that we still think. I don't think it's going to be multiple ships. I think we'll just have the profundity. I think we'll have Princess Leia, Farm Boy Luke. Those seem almost a certainty for me. Now, the next one I'm going to suggest is going to be Drogon. Now, if you've forgotten about it, Drogon is actually a brand new original character that CG is creating themselves. They have completely made this up, similar to Sortie, based on real units seen in the KOTOR game. Drogon is supposedly a rebel fighter that fought on Endor with the Ewoks against the Empire. They are creating him from scratch. Now, they announced him weeks ago when we had the announcement of Captain Rex. They said, hey, look, we're also bringing Princess Kneesaa and Captain Drogon, original unit. Why we haven't heard anything further about this unit so far remains a bit of a mystery. I'm not too certain. There have been people speculating that Drogon may not be a marquee, may not necessarily even be a requirement here, and might actually be a future Conquest unit after we've got Malakos. Personally, I don't prescribe to that, and the only reason I'm saying that is because we have still got essentially 6 weeks before we've finished off this conquest, a little bit longer actually, before we finish off this conquest and then get the next set of conquest, which will finish up the Malakos farm. That means we won't even finish off the next conquest unit for essentially another 4.5 to 5 months. That's going to take us into next year. That will be too late for the new raid, and I think, realistically, it's too late for Galactic Legend Leia. So I don't think that the next Conquest character will be Drogon, and I don't think that he is going to necessarily be a lifter unit. I think it's still quite likely that we get a 4th, unprecedented Galactic Legend marquee for Princess Leia. We know for certain that Drogon is going to be a unit that synergizes well and is almost mandatory for Galactic Legend Leia. So I'm reckoning somewhere in the region of R5 to R7 for Captain Drogon. Now, we have one last slot, and honestly, given the background and given what the current requirements are, I wouldn't be surprised if we get another Ewok as a requirement. If we check through the previous sectors, we've had Chief Chirper as an Ewok, and we've had Wicket and Princess Kneesaa as Ewoks and requirements for Galactic Legend Leia. So we will most likely get one final Ewok. I'm not going to speculate which one it's going to be. If I were to take a guess, I would say it would be Ewok Scout, not because he's any good. quite the opposite. He's a terrible, terrible Ewok. He does a lot of damage, but he has the least amount of synergy and the least amount of viability out of everybody. And that will give CG one last push to say, hey look, this is an easy character. Yes, he's not particularly good, but you don't have to blow a lot of Kyrotech in order to get him up there. And that's what I think it will bring us round to. I don't think we're going to see any Relic 9 requirements for this particular set. I'm looking at this and it has a very distinct Jabba-esque feel to it. If we were to take a look at the Jabba GL requirements, you'll notice that there are no Relic 9 requirements for this particular GL. We've got Relic 5s, we've got Relic 8s, we've got Relic 3s, 7s, even a 6. I don't think we are going to see any Relic 9s for Galactic Legend Leia. I think the highest we're going to see is the R8, and that's on R2-D2. I don't think necessarily we'll get another R8, but we might. It's not out of the realms of possibility. And I think the rest are going to be somewhere in the region of R3 to R5 to R7. You know, that sort of range is what I would expect. Now, I guess the next thing to talk about is, when are we expecting to see Drogon? I would expect maybe in 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks' time, and then we'll have Leia fully farmable by the end of the year, just in time for the Endor raid. So we'll jump into the Endor raid, we'll have a brand new Galactic Legend, that is going to be the featured Galactic Legend, and we'll all be set and ready. Obviously, not everybody's going to be able to farm this immediately, but I do highly recommend it. Please check out my video on the Crate Dragon Raid rewards changes just over here. It's going to be super important. Farm your Galactic Legend Leia as soon as you can, guys. Peace out. May the Force be with you.